hour, so if you didn't get dessert the first time through, please feel comfortable and feel free to go back and fill your plate and have some dessert. And our wait staff will be drinking our coffee as well. So, welcome to the STEMspark Legislative Luncheon. We are so pleased to have you here with us today to celebrate some important developments for both education and workforce pipeline across the state of Tennessee. But first of all, I would be remiss if I didn't thank our luncheon sponsors, without whom this event would not have been possible. I'd like to begin by thanking our presenting sponsor, Aquachem. For those of you that don't know, Aquachem is a leader in providing global water solutions, developing innovative and comprehensive water solutions for the military, pharmaceutical, offshore oil and gas, industrials, bottled water, commercial, marine, and micro-utilities markets. Building water processing systems with custom engineering and quality in-house manufacturing and highest quality customer service, Aquachem Solutions builds solutions for markets around the globe. And I just have to give a personal endorsement. I was fortunate enough to go out and visit with David Jensterblum and his facility here in Knox County. Some of you may not know that they are located at Forks of the River right here in Knox County. And nearly every water solution that they develop is built custom from the ground up. And his team has some of the highest cutting-edge machinery to build those water solutions. Sometimes they have to build their equipment just to create the solution. And they are certainly a partner that needs well-qualified STEM graduates in our community. So we are pleased that located right here in East Tennessee is Aquachem Water Solutions. And I want to thank President David Jensterblum for his support and for sponsoring this luncheon today. I'd also like to recognize and thank our table hosts, all of whom are important partners for the STEMspark East Tennessee STEM Hub. First of all, the Tennessee Valley Authority is here today and will be making an important announcement about their contribution and support for STEM education across the state of Tennessee. And Justin Meyer, Chief of Staff, is representing TVA at their table today. Thank you, Justin. The University of Tennessee Knoxville came on board with the East Tennessee Hub when the Tennessee Innovation Network was merely a dream and an idea, and we are so pleased to have representatives from the University of Tennessee Knoxville with us here today, and represented by Scott Redenoff. Thank you all. We are so fortunate in the STEMspark Innovation Hub and across the Tennessee Valley to have 3 partners in community college education, all of whom also came on board immediately with this initiative and their support, understanding that the collaborative partnerships are what is going to build the strength of this vision and this network. So I'd like to welcome from the Pellissippi State Foundation and President of Pellissippi State Community College, Dr. Anthony Wise, and representatives from Pellissippi State. Walters State Community College is also here with us today. We are grateful to have their support. And Dr. Wade McKinney, President, is representing Walters State Community College. Thank you, Dr. McKinney. And finally, the new kid around here, the new kid on the block, but not so new to Rhode State. Dr. Chris Whaley is representing the newly named President of Rhode State Community College and is representing Rhode State with his colleagues here today. Thank you, Dr. Whaley. So we have a brief program outlined in the programs on your table, and we'll just get started right away. It's my pleasure to introduce a school leader in the Tennessee Valley with vision and courage. And I say vision because this gentleman was willing to undertake the leadership of the East Tennessee STEM Hub when it was an inspirational yet a bit undefined concept, and courageous to commit to embracing 11 other school districts across the East Tennessee region to provide students in the Tennessee Valley with an unprecedented opportunity for education and career advancement. It's my pleasure to introduce Knox County School Superintendent, Dr. James McIntyre.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marilyn, and thank you for your outstanding leadership in moving forward this conversation about outstanding STEM education in our community. You'll have to forgive me, I spent the weekend in Boston, so if I'm calling it the STEMspark, that's because I'm used to my accent come out a little bit here. I want to thank so many of our guests who are here today to talk about STEM education and to hear from some real experts in this field about some of the important work that's happening in the field of supporting STEM education. I want to recognize a few of the folks who are here this afternoon who are important to the effort here locally, and certainly I want to thank members of the Board of Education who are here with us. And we have with us Lynn Fugit from the Board of Education and Cindy Kincannon from the Knoxville County Board of Education. Thank you for being here. We also have a few of our county commissioners who are here with us, I guess it's this morning as well. And I want to thank them for being here with us. From Knoxville County Commission, we have Mike Brown, Ed Schaus, and Mike Hammond. Thank you for being here today. And in addition to that, we also have a few of our delegates to the General Assembly who are here with us today as well. So I want to thank those of you who have joined us. We have State Representative Ryan Haynes, State Representative Roger Kane, and State Senator Becky Duncan-Massey. Thank you for being here. In 2010, Knox County Schools began the process of establishing a high-quality, standalone STEM magnet high school. And of course, you all know STEM for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I really want to take a moment and thank the Knox County Board of Education for its vision and leadership in supporting that effort. At the time, this was really just an idea. It was a concept, and one that I think the board our Board of Education had a great deal of courage in embracing and approving and supporting moving forward. We thought that developing a rigorous educational opportunity for our students in this vein made a lot of sense, considering all of the regional STEM assets that we enjoy in this area, including the flagship university for the University of Tennessee, major research university here, and other colleges and universities here in our region. Of course, we have the Oak Ridge National Laboratory Complex and the affiliated colleges and universities that are part of that effort, Tennessee Valley Authority, and a variety of other science and technology and technology-related companies that call the greater Knoxville area home. So now you see right across the street here the fruits of our labor. And I think the terrific and wonderfully successful L&N STEM Academy High School is up and running. It's in its second year. And only in its second year, we're providing a really innovative, high-quality education to our kids. And this past year, we had about over 300 applicants for about 175 spaces at the school. So the demand is there for high-quality education in the STEM disciplines. And I believe we are well-positioned to deliver on that promise. The school, I think, is serving students exceptionally well under the able direction of Mrs. Becky Cash, who is here this morning. And our thinking was that certainly there are opportunities for our students in terms of their future careers in the STEM disciplines, but even if our students choose not to go into the STEM disciplines, having an education that's grounded in the STEM areas, I think allow them to develop some habits of inquiry and cognition and thinking and some real discipline in terms of their learning that will serve them well, regardless of what it is they go into, and will serve them well in their future and whatever they may choose to pursue in life. Again, I think the Board of Education was visionary in its approval of the school, in part because we are also moving toward making it a regional school. The L&N STEM Academy serves a Knox County Schools population right now, but from the outset, the Board of Education envisioned and approved a school that would serve up to 20% of the students it would serve would be from school districts outside of Knox County. And so I'm excited that next year, the L&N STEM Academy, which is a platform school of the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, and supported by the STEMspark, I got that right, the STEMspark Tennessee STEM Hub, will formally begin to enroll students from across the East Tennessee region. When fully enrolled, there will be 120 slots for students from the STEMspark East Tennessee region. That's as much as 20% of the existing seats for students at the school. And 30 new freshman transfer slots will be open for the 2013-2014 school year. And pending a sort of a memorandum of agreement where we'll sort out all the details, the regional counties to which STEMspark spaces will be available at the L&N STEM Academy will include the 8 counties that are specifically directly adjacent to Knox County. That includes Anderson and Blount, Ranger, Jefferson, Loudoun, Roane, Sevier, and Union counties. And enrollment will also be open to students at local school districts that reside within those counties. And that would include Alcoa City, Lenore City, Maryville City Schools, and Oak Ridge Schools. So we're excited about the opportunity to not only provide a truly outstanding STEM education to our students here at Knox County, but also to make about 20% of those seats available to students from around our region. Of course, there's lots of logistics to be worked out in terms of how funding will work and all of those types of things, but we are confident that we'll be able to enter into memorandums of agreement with each of the school systems in each of the counties that may send students so that some of their students may avail themselves of this truly extraordinary opportunity for great education in the STEM disciplines. So we're excited about this expansion to a regional school. It is really bringing to fruition the vision that we've had from the beginning of an outstanding STEM high school that would have an impact regionally, and also really provide an example for how schools across East Tennessee, perhaps across the state of Tennessee, maybe even around the country, may be able to provide this type of great education to our kids in the STEM disciplines. I think it certainly has become a model in terms of the creativity and innovation of the great faculty and administration and leadership that we have at the school. I think it's also become a real national model in terms of what I see out here today, which is the level of partnership and support from businesses, from the university, from the philanthropic community, and from our community at large in supporting the extraordinary educational work that's happening within the school. So we're excited about becoming a regional school, and we're excited about providing an opportunity to about 20% of the seats in the school going to students from around the region. At this time, it's my great pleasure to introduce you to the Honorable Eric Fingerhut. Since 2002, Eric Fingerhut has served as the Vice President for Education and STEM Learning at the Battel Memorial Institute, the largest nonprofit research and development organization in the world. He has served as a member of the Ohio Senate and the United States House of Representatives, and held the post of Director of Economic Development Education and Entrepreneurship at Baldwin Wallace College. He was also appointed Chancellor of the Ohio Board of Regents in 2007. Please join me in welcoming an outstanding STEM supporter and innovator, the Honorable Eric Fingerhut.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. It's really a great honor for me to be here today with you. This is so inspiring to look across this room and see the coalition that has come together to support innovative STEM education here in East Tennessee. It is really extraordinary. The university, the community colleges, of course our great local school district, and the business community all working together to truly make this a national leading model in STEM education. So the superintendent has done a great job of thanking everybody. As a former politician, I would be tempted to do it all over again, but consider yourself thanked again for all of your support and everything that you have done. I do want to say to to the members of the state legislature who are here. Of course, as a former state legislator myself, former senator, state senator, I really appreciate the umbrella of support that is coming from the state legislature, from our Department of Education. Please give our regards to Commissioner Huffman and thank him for his support, from our governor, who I know has a great affection for this school and has been to this school a number of times, and of course has his roots here in this community, Governor Haslam. This is really an extraordinary level of state support for innovation. And as a former state legislator, I can tell you that what we hear from educators isn't always, oh, give us space to innovate, right? There's lots of conversation between education and state legislatures about budgets, about regulations, about a few things that are viewed as hindrances to education, and that's often what dominates the state legislative discussion, state policy discussion of education. And really, it's just so extraordinary to come to a state where the state policy level discussion is also about innovation. And one of the things I want to share with you today is how I think that that model is working and is spreading. You know, the superintendent described LNN as a platform school. What does that mean? It means that we're here not only to serve the students that are in this school, but we're here to provide that innovative spark that can reach across boundaries and can inspire traditional public schools as well as other communities who want to start innovative schools like the LNN model. We're here to serve, and that's what the hub is, right? What's this STEMspark all about? It's about providing the support necessary to translate that innovative work that's going on at LNN out. It's an innovative model that involves a number of pieces working together in order to make sure that this is truly spreading. Only two people that I do need to make sure I acknowledge, as well as in addition to those that the superintendent did. The superintendent did mention our great principal at LNN, Becky, but I need to say again how inspiring it is for me to be around her. I've had the privilege of being with Becky at national meetings, at other meetings, and then at her school. I think all of us who've been involved in education in one way or another understand that ultimately it's the leader in the school who provides that day-to-day sense of momentum, that day-to-day sense of optimism, and the support to the teachers to innovate and the students to feel comfortable challenging and reaching beyond themselves. So Becky, thank you for what you do. You're a model, and I love coming to see you and coming to see the school. But I also want to make sure that I introduce you to my colleague, Wes Hall, who's right here in the front. The superintendent mentioned the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that network now. But Wes is the director of our Tennessee network in partnership with the State Department of Education. So Wes, thank you for what you're doing here in Tennessee and for the work all across the state. He was glad the luncheon here was on a Monday after a home football game. He's a staunch UT alum, and he was here for the game. So we gave him a good excuse. Actually, it was planned around his ability to come to the game this weekend. By the way, Battel, you may know, is headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. It's also our state capital. We had a little football game there this weekend too. So we all came away in a pretty good mood. So I don't know if you'll be able to hear me if I walk around. If I walk around a little bit, maybe I should take this with me as I go. What do you think? You think this will go far? How far this will go? If I start tripping over myself, I don't like to stand still. But I did want to share with you a little bit about what this movement is about that you're part of today. Because in my experience in education and government, you always like to know you're not alone. And I want to make sure you know that you're not alone. This is Gordon Battel. I know people you heard in the introduction, Superintendent McIntyre said that Battel is the largest R&D organization, independent R&D organization in the world. We actually manage $6.5 billion worth of research a year. 6 of the United States Department of Energy national labs. Of course, extraordinarily proud of our long association here in the state of Tennessee with Oak Ridge National Lab and our partnership with UT in managing that lab. And you should know that while all of your children are beautiful, right? And all of your children are equal. And so we love all the labs we manage, but we do have a particular affection for Oak Ridge UT because our CEO, Dr. Jeff Wadsworth, was of course the director of Oak Ridge National Lab. And so pretty much half of our senior executive staff has come from Oak Ridge. And so if we don't feature Oak Ridge in a conversation around Battel on a given day, we're severely reprimanded. So we have a particular close affection for Oak Ridge National Lab and for the work in Tennessee. So this is the guy that had this idea of an independent nonprofit research organization. And you look at the years that he lived. That's why I put this up here, because think about it, right? This was before research universities. This was before the NIH. This was before NSF. This was before any of this infrastructure of research that we rely on today and that we in some ways take for granted. So what was he thinking, right? What made him think that, gee, there ought to be a place that you could go that's not a profit-making institution, but that is able to advance the work of research. So just a little reminder what was happening during his lifetime. So this guy on the left is Enrico Caruso. He's working with one of the first phonographs, because this, of course, was the era of the phonograph. This is Alexander Graham Bell making the first telephone call. This is the Wright brothers, of course, at Kitty Hawk, the first flight in 1903. By the way, you know the joke in Ohio, because we have this battle that North Carolina claims to be first in flight. And of course, the Wright brothers were from Dayton, Ohio, which is where they invented the plane. So in their bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio. So what we say is that we had the brains, North Carolina had the wind. That's the so that's how we resolved the conundrum. This was the first transcontinental phone call. It was actually placed, since we're on the site of a former World's Fair, that you'd like this, this was actually placed from New York to the San Francisco World's Fair in 1915. The first transcontinental phone call was placed at the World's Fair in 1915, all during the time Gordon Battel was growing up and going to school. This is Thomas Edison, who also, we have some claim to him in Ohio. He was born in Milan, Ohio, even though he did most of his productive work in New Jersey, but of course still holds more patents than any other American in history. And this is Albert Einstein, who published the general theory of relativity also in 1915. So think about the world in which Gordon Battel was trying to imagine, how do we capture this innovation? How do we spread it? How do we make it accessible to as many people as possible, and not just the province of a few fortunate folks? Now, he wrote his will in 1921, and he was 33 years old at the time. Pretty remarkable insight again. It was actually, he had inherited this fortune from his father, who was an industrialist in central Ohio in the steel industry, which was obviously a pretty common thing in Ohio. I have a theory, my personal theory, I'm a history buff, I like to read this stuff. My personal theory is he actually thought he was going to run this institute, that this was what he was going to do with his life, with his inheritance from his father. Unfortunately, he died in 1923 very suddenly of acute appendicitis, which at that time was deadly if you got to the wrong hospital and they didn't have the right sanitary conditions for you. His mother, who was now grieving from the loss of both her husband and her son, contributed her share of the estate to the institute. And I forgot to mention that Gordon Battel had made a list of the names of people that should be the first trustees of the institute. One of them was President-elect Warren Harding, who was their contemporary, their friend, who you may know had been a U.S. Senator from Ohio, and Lieutenant Governor, so they knew him in the Columbus area. He also died, if you remember your American history. So I was sitting next to a great attorney here, Esther Bell, who So it took the attorneys a good decade to figure out what the heck to do with this thing. And this is the first building that opened in 1929. Well, you know what happened in 1929? The stock market crashed, right? So another fun story that we'd like to tell. This totally none of this has anything to do with talking to you, but but you know, we're around here, so when you invite somebody from Battel, you get a little Battel history along with it. The introduction, by the way, is also long in the speech, though, so when I'm done with this, the speech will be short. But they actually there was actually a board meeting. They had all these industrialists, you know, pretty wealthy folks who own businesses in Ohio, and there was the minutes of a board meeting in 1929 that says, you know, we think our stock is overvalued. We actually don't think our companies are worth what the stock market is pricing it at. And so they passed a board resolution to take the endowment out of the stock market 6 weeks before the stock market crashed. So imagine if they hadn't done that, right, we wouldn't even be here today. Now I'm starting the speech. The real point of this is, that was all just for fun. The real point of this is that that even in 1929, as Gordon Battel was conceiving of this institute and thinking about the need for a research institute on the likes of which had not been seen before, he understood that education had to be one of our focuses. That if we weren't training the next generation of scientists and technology leaders, then of course it didn't matter what kind of institute you had or what kind of endowment you had for research. And so this has always been part of our DNA at Battel. And think about, you know, as we're on the cusp of this extraordinary revolution in STEM education, which I don't really need to explain to you because you're all a part of it. You're all feeling it. You feel the need for it, and you feel that it's happening around you. And if you don't feel it, you can walk across the street to the school and you can see it. But imagine that they had to do the same thing, right, at the turn of the 20th century. An education system that came before the airplane, that came before the telephone. These things were not relevant anymore. So now they had to be rethinking what they were doing, and they understood that they had to rethink education along with it. So for a long time, because what came after the Depression, of course, was the war, and most of Battel's scientific talent ended up being devoted to the military effort. In part, that's why we had a legacy that led us to lead Oak Ridge National Lab, because the great scientific invention of World War II was the dawn of the nuclear era, right? We had the Manhattan Project, which of course in part occurred here at Oak Ridge, and led then to the commercial nuclear business. We had the first commercial nuclear reactor 30 miles west of Columbus, Ohio, built by Battel. It was in service until not too long ago. But so for a long time, we were fortunate enough to be generating some revenue off of these research discoveries, and so we were donating it and helping start STEM programs. This was also, of course, the era where the growth of the research institution did occur. Right, we had the birth of the NSF in 1950, I think, and 1950 was also about when the public university enrollment exceeded that of the private universities. You had the World War II GI, post-World War II GI Bill, all these things that made it well worth supporting what was going around. But in the last decade, as you began to feel it here in Tennessee, we began to ask ourselves, are we innovating in education the way Gordon Battel would have had us think about innovation? And to us, the answer was no. And you all know about the reports and the studies, the gathering storm, and all the other things that were coming out around the country that said, you know what, we're really not keeping up as a nation, and it's impacting our economic prosperity, and it's going to impact our national security. All of these things that you feel intimately here. One of the exciting things for me about always coming down here is that you see the intersection of economic prosperity, national security, and energy security. All of those things are so intertwined here in the Knoxville region. So we started rolling up our sleeves, and the first thing we did was partner with Ohio State and started a school very much like the L&N Academy. In fact, Becky's been there. It's called the Metro School. It's right off the campus of the Battel and Ohio State are sort of across the street from each other, and so there's a little corner off to the side where the intersection of the two campuses. where we built the Metro School. We now are on our actually 7th year, so I just want you to think about how new this movement is, right? So the first school in the movement is now 7 years old. So we've had a grand total of 3 graduating classes, and so when people ask me for longitudinal data and all the things that university researchers are used to asking for and foundations are used to asking for in our grant proposals, right? We're gathering all of our data, but it's still obviously a small sample, but it's a sample that's it's going to grow. And you see that it's been a tremendous success. And just like I was so excited to hear about your regional expansion, where you're welcoming students from all over, and that's the same thing we just did in Metro. Right? We just transitioned to a broad regional school in Metro. It took us a few more years than you did. You're a fast learner. You're ahead of us, but we still have our commitment. There is half of our students come from the Columbus City, from the poorest school district in the region, and then the other half of the students can come from any school districts around. And one of the things we're proud of is that you really cannot distinguish in the performance between the students who come from that inner city district and who come from our surrounding districts. Everybody graduates. Everybody's going to college. I heard Becky when we were across the street on the tour talking about how strongly she's urging the students to take college credit while they're in high school. I don't have to explain to a room full of community college and university people why dual enrollment is such a positive part of an educational experience, and not only preparing students for college, but helping them have the confidence that they can do college level work, and frankly already being prepared to do college level work. So we have the same success in Metro. So the question arose in when I was still in the state legislature, Senator, and legislators. We saw Metro, and we immediately said, so how do we do this around the state, right? This is a big state, and we want to replicate it. And so the state legislature back in 2007, which I like to say was the last year that the states had any money, because it was before just before the budget that was passed, just before the economic recession really took deep hold and had such a devastating impact on state budgets, as all the state legislators and policymakers know so well. But the state was able to appropriate some money. The Gates Foundation matched that funding, so we've had tremendous support from the Gates Foundation, and much of the work that you've done here, you need to acknowledge the gracious support of the Gates Foundation, helping us get this work off the ground. The state contributed some money, the Gates contributed some money, and I was, at that time, I transitioned from being a member of the state legislature to being chancellor of our university system, but we understood we couldn't really run this ourselves. If we wanted this to be a true network that was really growing in the way that the bottom up, the growth that we wanted to see, that we had to let go. And so just as you've done here, we encourage the development of a public-private partnership, a public-private network. And Battel volunteered to run that network in Ohio. As I mentioned, we're headquarters there. And this just gives you a little sense of how fast this network grew and what it now looks like in Ohio. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about networks in a second, but I think we need to appreciate, what does it mean that the network grew? What it means is the folks who were at that first school in Metro opened their doors to the folks in each of these communities that wanted to replicate the school, and made their time available and their resources available, and went up to them and helped them recruit teachers and helped them recruit principals and helped them develop the curriculum and create the models. So this was a real partnership of love between people who thought they were onto something that mattered and wanted to help spread the word, and you see where we are. So networks work there, and that brings us to Tennessee. And I know that you know this, but you've been moving faster than we ever could have imagined in Ohio. It's been so exciting to watch the growth of the network across Tennessee. You know these schools better than I do, but this is your first year, 2011, and then of course the additions that have occurred to the network in 2012. But this just kind of gives you a sense of where you are now and where the growth is heading. By the way, if anybody would like a copy of these slides, Wes can make sure that you have them if they be of use to you. But the point is that everybody's been so diligent here in Tennessee as you built out the network to not just build schools, but to build schools together with the hubs that can take the great work of the schools and spread out the partnerships. And again, the key is the partnership is not just to start other schools, though we love doing that, right? Any community that wants to do something like LNN, we want to help them and support them in doing that. But there's also a great possibility to infuse within the more traditional schools the lessons that are learned. It's not an all or nothing proposition, right? We can glean things and we can adapt things that are useful. So here's where we stand today in the development of this great network, and there's some of your current data now totaling over 3,700 students. Really, this is, you think about, and I think about our colleague from the Department of Education who's here. When this first started, it's hard to imagine a network before it exists, right? To try to picture a network is a very difficult thing. But the foresight that was shown by the state to include this work in their Race to the Top application, which of course was the nation's leading Race to the Top award, and then to stick with it through a change in administrations, through a change in leadership, and to give it the time to grow and to be nurtured. It demonstrates really an extraordinary level of leadership at the policy level in the state, something in which you should be enormously proud. What I want you to know as I conclude here is that this is a movement now that started in Ohio, moved to Tennessee, and is now just exploding across the country. So in June, we kicked off a network of networks, if you will, collaboration among networks. It's called STEMx, and today it has 16 states that are building networks. And now you should understand that these are at all different levels of development, right? Some are at the very beginning of development, some are much more sophisticated. But our goal is to help each other, to exchange best practices. And if you think about to accelerate progress, learn from each other's mistakes, all of those kinds of things, build a professional network. You all know this in your work. Don't you want to be part of a community of professionals who are charging ahead into uncharted territory? Don't you want to be able to draw on each other's expertise? There's nothing that's more fun for me than to see Becky and STEM school principals from Washington State and from North Carolina and from Texas get together and share what they're doing and excite each other and help us find the next generation of principals so that we can expand. So STEMx is your growing national network, which really leads me to just want to make a plea for support of this very idea of a network. So network is the policymakers here from both the Department of Education and state legislature say that there's not exactly a definition in the Tennessee legislative code for a network. What is a public-private network? How do you describe its value? How do you tell people why this is the strategy that we've developed? And so it does require explanation. We understand school districts, superintendent, right? We know what the job of the school board is. We know what the job of the superintendent is. We know what the job of the principal is. The State Department can have report cards, and everybody reports on the same standard scores. And as you well know, we not only are happy to, but committed to meeting any state standard at LNN or at any of the platform schools that apply to any of our traditional schools. But you understand that it's more than that, right? It's the intangibles that you see, the passion, the love of science and technology, the understanding that STEM is integrated into everything we do these days. There's not a job that doesn't have a STEM component to it. When's the last time you've been to a fast food restaurant and been surrounded by the technology in the restaurant business, or checked into a hotel and been surrounded by the technology or if you are gone to a bank. When's the last time you ever even went to a bank? You did it all digitally, right? You did all your financial operations digitally. Oh, we're surrounded by STEM everywhere we go, and so this has to be a collaboration of business and education and higher education in order to make it work. So these are some of the STEM networks with whom you are in partnership around the country. You're not only in partnership with Tennessee, with the other hubs around Tennessee, but you are in partnership with these other great STEM networks across the state, and are drawing on their knowledge and their experience every day, whether you realize it or not. But I think it's important to understand the extent to which this national movement is coalescing and helping each other in a very, very important and significant way. Here's just one example of something that has worked through a network. So this group came together around something called College Ready Tools. These were a specific strategy developed by academic researchers that help teachers prepare students for the level of skills needed to succeed in college, to make sure that we're assessing properly whether students are college ready or not. A lot of people in this room are following the Common Core and the development of the new tests that will supposedly measure whether we've met a college-ready standard. But we know that today it's imperfect at best. I'm being generous. The alignment between high school graduation and college beginnings, we're all working diligently to close that gap. But this is a tool that helps assess that. And the point is that it started in one school and now already has spread across 4 different states in less than 6 months, as they're training each other and spreading this tool and saying one school says this helps and it grows from there. So just an example of how networks work. I'm going to close with this. This is just, I was on an airplane last week. I spent a lot of time on airplanes and picked up a copy of Fortune magazine, and there was a whole article about how our economy is increasingly reliant on the voluntary associations that people come together to improve their practice by sharing. What's that called? That's called a network. And so this is a quote from Fortune just this week. Networks are the essential metaphor of our age. Networks are what assembly lines were 150 years ago. Think about that. Think about that. Here we are across the street from an old train station that has been turned into an extraordinarily innovative school. It's not hard when you walk through that train station, is it? To picture the trains and picture the assembly lines in the manufacturing plants and realize that that was what industry was like. That was what workers needed to know how to do. That was what managers had to know how to do to run those kinds of regimented institutions. And we all know from our everyday life that's not at all what the lives of the kids who are going through school today is going to be like. One of the great education scholars that I follow has said that we are training them for jobs that don't even exist yet. Right? We don't know what job those terrific, beautiful kids, smart, creative kids that we just, some of us just saw across the street now and then. We do not know what they're going to do, and they don't know what they're going to do. So they have to have a passion for STEM with the confidence that they need to embrace the subject matters, and they have to be able to work together and to know how to reach out for help, to be able to adapt and to innovate. And that's the work that you're doing. There's nothing more here other than some nice pictures to say to you that we often, as we focus on standards and accountability, and all of this is extraordinarily important. We often forget the sheer joy of education and the sheer pleasure of helping somebody see something in a way that they've never seen before. And those of us who just came across the street from the tour are infused with that right now, right? We feel the joy of seeing teachers challenge students in innovative ways, of seeing students in a hands-on mode, figuring out problems themselves, working their way through it. So when I look around this room today, I am so optimistic that what has begun here at the school and with this hub of innovation that is part of a state network, that is part of a national network. When I look around this room and I see the great university, the great community colleges, and our state leaders, our policy leaders, and our great business leaders all joining hands into this network effort to make sure that more and more students have that joy of learning in an environment that inspires them and prepares them for the future, whatever the future holds, then I'm absolutely confident not only that you're going to succeed, but that this state is going to succeed and this community is going to succeed because you're doing it the right way for the right reasons, and you're on a roll, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you. Terrific insights, and thank you for your enthusiasm and excitement about STEM and STEM education. I really do want to take a moment and just acknowledge what an extraordinary partner Battel has been in here in the state of Tennessee, and in particular for us in the Knox County Schools in developing the Element STEM Academy and the work that we're working to accomplish. They have just done an extraordinary job and a great thought partner and supporter of the work that we're trying to do. And I also want to thank each and every one of you who are here today, because each of you are also playing an important role in making sure that we have been able to create an outstanding STEM Academy High School. And I think we recognize that with that success, with that ability to provide a truly outstanding education to our kids, we also have a responsibility to bring that influence further than just the confines of our community, to really share the lessons that we've learned further beyond just Knox County. And then really this movement to having a greater regional impact is a big part of why we recognize that responsibility to do so. And I know we certainly want to make sure that we have a broader regional impact here in East Tennessee, but I know if Ms. Ash has anything to do with it, we're going to have a statewide impact, a national impact, and probably a global impact on this conversation about high-quality STEM education as well. So thank you, Ms. Fingerhut, for your great insights, and for Battel for the great support that we've received in creating a wonderful platform school for STEM education. At this point, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Justin Meyer, and Justin is the Chief of Staff and Vice President for the Tennessee Valley Authority. Justin lives in my neighborhood also. Last time I saw Justin, we were trick-or-treating with our kids, and he was in full costume, but we've come to an agreement. I'm not going to tell you what he was wearing if he doesn't tell you what I was wearing. So without further ado, Justin Meyer, TVA.
With a great amount of respect for Superintendent McIntyre and the Honorable Fingerhut, I think I had the best part of the agenda today. Good afternoon, and thank you. Today I have the honor of announcing TVA's investment in the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network. TVA is very proud to support this outstanding program. As the father of a 9, 7, and 2-year-old, I know personally there is nothing more valuable to my children's future than a quality education. Founding father and inventor Benjamin Franklin said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." Pretty well stated by a fellow who was also interested in electricity. TVA's support for public education emphasizes learning activities associated with science, technology, engineering, and math, all of which are vital to TVA's workforce. We support initiatives like STEM schools that develop a talent pipeline for TVA and its customers. And our employees support our partner schools by volunteering their time in the community. TVA is pleased to serve as a statewide partner and contribute $100,000 to the Tennessee STEM Innovation Initiative. Feel like a publisher's clearinghouse. With this contribution, each of the 6 STEM platform schools will be awarded $16,500 for their designation toward educational activities. TVA is committed to serving the communities we serve across our 7-state service region and actively promoting initiatives such as the STEM network that will benefit the Tennessee Valley in the future. Thank you.
We need to get the full photo. Marilyn, come on up. Let's come over here.
Stand behind. There you go.
Hey, there we go. Here, take that side. There we go.
Go to the fire.
How many engineers will it take?